Thank you, Libby and Roger。这是一个安息礼拜，英文说是 Celebration of Life。今天我们在上帝面前，不但为纪念我们的小青姐妹，我们也要为小青在上帝面前所领受的永生的恩典，我们来献上感谢。This morning we not only is going to remember, appreciate, but also we're celebrating not only this life, but the life to come, which God prepared for her. And we do have extra rooms in the back, NPR, and also in the classroom. So if you are standing there, when you go there, you can watch the live streaming and also table, so you can be along with us. Okay, don't need to stand. 在我们的教室还有后面，我们的这个副堂都有电视转播，所以你们可以到旁边的房间，不用一直站在这个地方。今天早上的聚会呢，同时也有网上的直播，相信有许多弟兄姊妹还有亲友或者是朋友都不能来到现场，所以我预备了现场的直播，诸位可以到 YouTube 进入我们教会 MBCSFV 的频道，就可以看到我们现场的直播。请你可以告诉不能来到我们当中的朋友们。So we do have live streaming through YouTube. If you go to MBCSFV channel, you will see it right there. We're live streaming simultaneously online. 让我们一起立，大家说 stand. We start with prayer. 我们一起来起立，我们一起来祷告。亲爱的天父，我们恭敬的来到你的面前，我们有怀着无比的心情。因为我们亲爱的小青姐妹，在你所定的日子时候，你已经把她接回了天家。我们真是非常的不舍，但是我们知道她是你的所爱的女儿，你爱她也必爱她到底。我们在这里献上感谢， 今天早上的聚会，我们祈求上帝天父你亲自的与我们同在，特别在这个聚会当中安慰陪光有每一位家属。我们感谢你，因为小青所敬拜的、所服侍的上帝，今天已经把他接回到天上荣美的家中。我们求你的应许，你的话语，你的慈爱，你的恩典，今天早上充满这个会场，让我们在座的每一位也都能够从你的面前领受恩典，领受安慰，领受祝福。谢谢你垂听我们的祷告，奉耶稣基督的圣名，阿们。请大家继续站立，我们念一段圣经。Remain standing as we read scripture from the Bible. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 and 30. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light. 马太福音11章28节到30节。凡劳苦担重担的人，可以到我这里来，我就使你们得安息。我心里柔和谦卑，你们当负我的恶，学我的样式，这样你们心里就必得享安息。因为我的恶是容易的，我的担子是轻省的。大家请坐 ，Please be seated. This passage is 小青 beloved scripture from the Bible. 这段圣经是小青姐妹真是非常非常喜欢的一段经文。今天我们在这个时刻一起来受读，一起来聆听。我们感谢主。接下来，小青的妹妹小云要来追溯姐姐的生平。有请好 please represent the eulogy.
Remembering my sister, Dr. Green Schmidt. Green was born on June 7, 1948 in Taipei. Ever since she was young, she was outstanding in whatever activity she was engaged in. She always gave 120% effort. When she was born, our maternal grandfather predicted that she would be nationally famous as a teenager. Indeed, when she was only 17, she was selected through a fierce competition by Girl Scouts to represent the Republic of China to attend the international 10,000 Girl Scouts Roundup in the United States, which was held there every 4 years. When she turned 18, she was invited by Girl Scout headquarters to be a counselor at the International Girl Scout Conference held in the East-West Center in Hawaii. This event happened right after she took the college entrance exam. Despite the time-consuming and labor-intensive preparation for the conference prior to the exam, she impressively passed the exam with a very high score and was admitted to her top choice, National Taiwan University Medical School. Green embarked on her official medical career. Green's unofficial medical career actually started when we were younger than 10. Green, Todd, and I loved playing the game doctor, nurse, patient. Green was always the doctor. I was always the nurse. And poor Todd was always the patient. Not too surprisingly, Green became a real doctor, and I went on to work in a few nursing schools. Hopefully Todd is forever healthy and not impatient. While in medical school, Green learned the knowledge and skills to be a talented physician. However, what made her an exceptional doctor was that she was born with a kind and compassionate heart. In fact, in 1973, she was voted the best doctor by her medical school classmates and the professors. Her patients remember Green's willingness to spend more time with them and her empathic listening. She also treated patients holistically, expanding her inquiries to include other parts of the body, to investigate her patient's illness further. In her third year of medical school, Green met KK, and they started dating. KK vanquished Green's many other pursuits, and won our parents' blessing. They got married in 1975 in Columbus, Ohio, and had their own children, Roger in 1977 and Lily in 1983. In 1975, upon my Ohio State advisor's recommendation and persuasion, Green entered the Ohio State University Hospital OB/GYN residency program. On the first day, her department chair warned her that foreign-trained doctors were usually not as good as U.S.-trained doctors. Little did he know that Green scored 99 percentile on the national exam, CREOG, that's Council on Resident Education OB/GYN, after her first year of residency. Her excellency shut up everyone, including the chair. As an OB/GYN doctor, she, of course, could not control when her OB patients would deliver, day or night, which often turned her own life schedule upside down. Despite the physical and emotional challenges of her specialty, she found bringing life into this world extremely rewarding. The other half of Green's profession involved diagnosing and managing gynecological illnesses. Green truly excelled in delivering outstanding care to all women who were under her care. Whenever we went out to eat with Green and KK in the Valley, we almost always met people whose children Green brought to this world years ago. Green's extracurricular activities involved reading detective stories, mysteries. Actually, she read anything in print, including cereal boxes, playing piano, harmonica, trumpet, and erhu, which is a Chinese string instrument, similar to violin, singing in choirs, and playing tennis. You better watch out for her slice shots. When she was in high school, she was the last runner in her team to run the 400-meter relay. Watching her run was one of the most adrenaline-pumping sights. After she had grandchildren, her most enjoyable activity was movie nights with them. Believe it or not, cartoons and monster movies were her favorites. In my mind, Green was a true Christian. She was humble, she loved people, and embodied the phrase, give more than you take. She never criticized or judged others. She sometimes told me that only 5% of illnesses were understood by humans. The other 95% were under God's control. Green often thanked God for her children and her grandchildren, and her very devoted daughter-in-law, Sunny, and her very compassionate son-in-law, Conrad. Many of you may know that Green was quite excellent in Chinese literature. She had an exceedingly magnificent memory. She could recite many traditional Chinese poems from many dynasties past. When she had time to watch TV quiz show, Chinese poems and poetry competition, 中华诗词大会, she often shouted out the answers before the contestants responded. I asked her at her bedside during her last few days to be my sister again in our next life. When we see each other again, she has an obligation to teach me those poems. Ring, I'm so proud of you. I'm very proud to be your sister. Please rest in peace. I love you.
Because of the time, we will share this message in Mandarin Chinese, and you will find the English script in your bulletin. 因为时间的缘故，我今天早上就用国语来分享今天早上的信息。你可以在我们的节目单里面看到英文的翻译。早清生前，非常熟悉的一段圣经，就是诗篇23篇。等到最后卧床的日子，弟兄姊妹去看他，去陪他。我们也常常念诗篇23篇。诗篇23篇的作者是大卫，是一位以色列族的君王。这篇诗篇已经有3000年的历史，虽然年代这么久远，但今天读起来仍然非常的亲切，好像是现代人的新诗。大卫的贡献不仅是因为当时代的丰功伟业，也是因为他的心灵的深处和上帝有非常亲密的关系。以至于他在圣灵的感动之下，写下了这篇超越时代的信息，也表达了历世历代所有基督徒共同的心声，为万世万国万民带来无比的祝福。这篇诗篇是这样说的：耶和华是我的牧者，我必不致缺乏。他使我躺卧在青草地上，领我在可安歇的水边。他使我的灵魂苏醒，为自己的灵引导我走义路。我虽然行过死荫的幽谷，也不怕遭害，因为你与我同在。你的杖、你的竿都安慰我。在我敌人面前，你为我摆设宴席。你用油膏了我的头，使我的福杯满溢。我一生一世必有恩惠慈爱随着我。我且要住在耶和华的殿中，直到永远。这篇诗篇描绘出基督徒共同的人生的经历，也唤起了所有上帝儿女发自内心的共鸣。从青草地到溪水旁，从行走异路到死荫的幽谷，无论顺境或逆境，风风雨雨，都有神的保守跟眷顾。甚至当我们还不认识他的时候，也不知道感谢他的时候，神的引导跟神的保护，早已经在我们的身上了。若是如此，可能有人会问说：那这样子，为什么我们还要耶稣呢？为什么我们还要十字架呢？为什么我们还要信仰呢？我想是的，不错。若将来没有天堂，没有永恒，没有审判，也没有天国，那么我们是没有需要耶稣，也不需要十字架的。假如人死如灯灭之后什么都没有了，假如善跟恶、是与非，后果都一样，完全没有分别，那么这位创造万物与世人生命的主宰， 就不是一位圣洁公义的真神。他所赐的一些恩惠与慈爱，也就没有真实的意义，也没有长远的价值。这样看来，这篇诗篇最后一句话值得我们格外的留意，因为这句话正是解开了这篇经文的钥匙。这篇诗篇最后一节说：“我一生一世必有恩惠慈爱随着我，我且要住在耶和华的殿中，直到永远。”你有没有想过，其实我们在这世界上享受的所有的一切美好的事物，都应该是把我们带到这位创造万物的上帝面前，因为我们世人都是领受者，我们每个人都是两手空空的来到世上，走的时候也要如此。当我们开始承认上帝是最终极的赐予者和创造者，而且他是绝对的圣洁和公义的时候，我们就必须诚实的面对自己的罪恶和罪恶的本性。也正是在这谦卑的时刻，我们才能真正明白上帝的恩惠和慈爱，唯有透过耶稣基督和十架的救赎，才能够临到我们的身上。而且唯有透过耶稣基督救赎的恩典，我们也才有特权，也才有确据，能够住在耶和华的殿中，直到永远。不是靠任何的功德或者是善行。从表面上来看，诗篇23篇似乎没有提到救恩，也没有提到十字架。今天，愿仁慈的圣灵打开我们的眼睛，让我们看到更深入、更丰盛的信息。为此缘故，在基督徒的聚会里面，我们首先要敬拜上帝，承认他是至高的真神，是我们的创造者。亲爱的耶稣基督是拯救我们的主。也正是根据这个真理，我们来纪念小金姐妹一生和她美好的属灵的见证，以及她在这个教会里面对主献上的服侍。在这个庄严的时刻，我们相信上帝神圣而荣美的同在已经彰显，并且为徐家、为薛家每一位也都带来安慰和荣耀的盼望。我们亲爱的小金姐妹现在已经如经文所应许的，在耶和华的殿中安息。这是她在地上的时候的活泼的盼望，现在已经成了天上荣美的家。在整本圣经里面，上帝非常清楚地启示我们，肉体的死亡不是信徒生命的终结，而是一个超自然转变的开始，从地上到天上，从短暂到永恒，从可见到不可见。这种令人难以置信的属灵和超自然的转变，不可能是任何人自己的功德或善行的结果，只有通过上帝的儿子耶稣基督的救赎恩典和他神圣的力量，才可能实现。这是何等奇妙，超乎我们想象。经历了在世间痛苦、疾病的考验，小青姐妹的生命更加确实有力地彰显了美好的见证。她的见证真是又响亮又清晰。我一生一世必有恩惠慈爱随着我，我且要住在耶和华的殿中，直到永远。让我们一起来记住小青姐妹，即使在苦难里面， 仍为主耶稣做的美好的见证，好叫我们在继续奔跑人生旅程的时候，也能够彼此勉励，要更加的信靠主。愿主耶稣的恩典一路保守我们，这个恩典也必将带领我们回家。要相信耶稣，要跟随耶稣，要侍奉耶稣。主耶稣必定带领我们回家。愿上帝祝福每一位都有着荣耀的人。接下来有几位要来分享对小青的回应。
She told me that even as a child she wanted to be a doctor. And then as a college freshman, a few weeks before finals, I told my mother that all my friends were getting care packages, and I wanted one too. She asked me what I wanted in my care package. I told her it's supposed to be a surprise, like a small bag of candy or something like that. A week later, the mailroom notified me of a package. I had received a huge 2-foot by 1.5 foot by 1 foot box. I brought it up to my dorm room and opened it to find it was filled with prescription drug samples. It had everything from various antibiotics to a small bottle of lidocaine with a few sterile syringes. At the very bottom was a snack-sized Ziploc bag of candy. In many ways, care and healthcare were equivalent in my mother's world. And I can tell you that she cared very deeply for many of you here. Medicine is how she loved and comforted people. Despite being a huge fan of Sherlock Holmes, she never harbored suspicions about anyone. She always thought the best of people, which I think made people want to be their best selves for her. And even when people were less than perfect, she handled it with grace. There was a situation where I was being taken advantage of, and I complained to my mother. Her response was, "You should feel lucky, because the only way someone can take advantage of you is by you having more than them." She wanted everyone to have a better life. When I asked her what kind of funeral she wanted, she initially said she didn't want one because she didn't want to impose on others. I told her that the funeral was not for her, but for the people she left behind to say goodbye and have closure. So there would have to be a funeral. "Okay," she said, "I don't want a funeral. I want a celebration of life where people will be happy and not sad. But no dirty jokes." While that banned certain family members from speaking today, we all know who they are. I felt I needed more direction than that, and I pressed further, so she said she wanted each person to describe a happy day. One of the happiest days I remember spending with my mom was during elementary school. I had a fever and stayed home from school. She canceled all her patients and stayed home with me. She made me xifan, which is rice porridge, with sugar for breakfast, and rice porridge with pork and cabbage for lunch. We sat on the couch and watched The Three Stooges. It felt like we had all the time in the world, and I was her most important patient for an entire day. I wish that we could have had more days like that. I thought that after she retired, we would have time to travel together, or just sit and watch monster movies, which were her favorite kind of movie, in which she would always be on the monster side. But then she got sick and fought cancer with her own incredible team of caring doctors who went above and beyond to give her more time to ease her suffering. Even before her treatment started, she told me that she was okay with death because she had no regrets. She told me she hoped she was going to heaven and that she would see her own mom and dad again, but added that they would probably scold her for arriving so soon. It makes me happy to think that when she gets to where she is going, she will be lonely. Whether you knew my mother as a doctor, fellow churchgoer, tennis partner, choir member, family, or friend, I hope you will take the time to think of one good day you had together. I hope you will give someone the benefit of the doubt. I hope you will take the time to show your love for someone in your own unique way. I hope you live without regret. Just try to do it without the dirty jokes. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Roger, I'm Green's son. From the time I was very young, I remember going out to dinner at various restaurants around the valley with my parents. But regardless of where we went, there was something that happened over and over. I can't tell you how many times we'd be eating and someone would call out, "Dr. Shea!" and run over to our table to talk to my mom. They usually have a look in their eyes that was a mixture of admiration and excitement, and my mom would engage them in conversation for minutes, never cutting them off with, "Well, I better get back to my family." Sometimes the person was another patron, sometimes it was restaurant staff, and sometimes this would happen more than once during a meal. This may have happened with my dad once or twice, but I suppose that dentists, despite their enormous contribution to public health, are just destined to be a less popular breed of doctor. So it's all the same with everyone else. I just like to take a second to thank my dad and all the dentists in the crowd for what they do. Getting back to my mom, the constant stream of praise I would hear about her the minute people found out I was Dr. Shea's kid was sometimes tough to process. To her patients, she was a fountain of compassion who tirelessly poured every ounce of energy into being the best doctor she could be. But I was left with a mom who would pick me up so late from school that I was often the very last kid to go home. A mom who was only human and would occasionally lose her temper and yell at her kids. She loved her job and spent as much time as she could at work. So the adulations I heard from my mom's patients, colleagues, and friends who merely wanted to convey the gratitude and admiration often had an effect on me that was not what was intended. Sometimes it's hard for me to square away the Dr. Shea that people say my mom was with the mom that I grew up with. People often tell me that my mom was very easygoing and compassionate. But for me, even as an adult, I found it hard to be vulnerable and open with her. Whenever I did talk to my mom about difficulties in my personal relationships or problems with a supervisor at work, these conversations never ended well. But to be fair, I think my mom was worried that I would become a person who wasn't kind, patient, or serious enough to be ready for the things life would throw at me. And I suppose being constantly positive and uplifting might not be fair to ask of any mom who cares about her son and is concerned with how he'll turn out. That said, the conventional kind of happy mommy and me memories a lot of other people have don't immediately come bubbling to the surface. No baking cookies on a rainy day with mom. No mommy making us our favorite dinner. That just wasn't part of the package. But over the years, and I told a lot of people this, I've come to realize that whatever shortcomings she may have had as a mommy, she was an extraordinary human being. Sometimes the positive influences my mom had on me are subtle things that I don't notice until later. About a month ago, I took my son to Barnes & Noble, where I saw a physics book for sale, and I immediately wanted my son to read it. He'd recently taken an interest in chemistry, and in fact, he memorized the whole periodic table. I don't know much about physics or chemistry, but I know that the two seem to go hand in hand. And I was excited about my son's learning, so I bought the book right away. But during the car ride home, to my dismay, my son refused to pick up the book and was instead engrossed in playing with a rubber fidget toy. I tried to coax him to read the book, but to no avail. Finally, I offered to pay him $4 if he read the book for 45 minutes. He thought about it for a bit and then accepted the offer, proclaiming, "Fine, but after this, I'm done and I'm not reading it again." And for a while, that was it. But last week, I was pleased to see him picking up the physics book again and making notes about it in a journal. Now, I'm really not the competitive tiger parent type at all, so why did I care so much? I think it's something that I owe to my mom. When I was around 6 years old, door-to-door traveling salesmen occasionally showed up at our door hawking educational books and encyclopedias. And whether it was Grolier, Southwestern, Childcraft, or Time Life, my mom always bought a set. If I had to guess why, knowing her, of course she had a love of books and learning. But I also think she felt compassion for the salespeople and knew that making a big sale would help them out a lot. And she just wanted to do something that would make them happy. That's just the kind of person she was. Whatever her reasons, I'm grateful. I'd always bring those books to bed with me and read until I fell asleep. And to this day, my friends often tell me I have a knowledge of a variety of weird subjects. Sometimes my mom supported me in ways that I didn't find out about it until later. When I think about it more, I believe she might have supported me more times than I'll really know. Supporting others was her lifestyle. Taking credit for it, not so much. One time, a couple of years ago, during the height of the pandemic, I was asked to give a presentation on Zoom about gardening with California native plants. I have a lot of experience on this topic, but at the time, I'd never done a presentation on Zoom before. I was worried about possibly making a tech error that would send the platform crashing during my presentation. So I didn't really tell anyone about my upcoming talk, and instead left the publicizing to the organizer. To my surprise, probably at least 40 people tuned in to talk, including non-California residents and some relatives of mine from Taiwan. What had happened was in the weeks leading up to the presentation, my mom told all her friends and many of our family members to tune in and support me. And in the weeks that followed, occasionally, I run into someone at church or at the store who'd say, "Hey, I listened to your talk. You know your mom is so proud of you." Which is something I wasn't always sure of, and something that I needed to hear. I'd like to close with a couple of quotes that remind me of how my mom lived her last days and of her legacy. Don Miguel Ruiz writes, "What the angel of death can teach us is how to be truly alive. We become aware that we can die at any moment. We have just the present to live. If we go to the hospital and the doctor tells us that we have 1 week left to live, what are we going to do? We have two choices. One is to suffer because we're going to die and tell everyone, 'Poor me, I'm going to die,' and create a huge drama. The other choice is to use every moment to be happy, to do what we really enjoy doing. If we only have 1 week to live, let's enjoy life. Let's be alive. We can begin every day by saying, 'I'm awake. I see the sun. I'm going to give my gratitude to the sun and to everything and everyone because I'm still alive. And of course, I treat the people I love with love. Because this may be the last day I can tell you how much I love you.'" A lot of people know that my mom was diagnosed with cancer. After my mom was diagnosed with cancer, she spent many weekends as she could watching movies with her grandkids. Even with her pain becoming excruciating, she'd try to make it down to the sofa for movie night with the family. But a lot of people don't know this next thing. One time, maybe 4 months ago, I was visiting my mom at the hospital. She was in the oncology ward and connected to some kind of IV feed. She was in bad shape. But even at that moment, she was on the phone giving medical consultation to someone else. And as unconventional as this sounds, I'm sure no one in this room who knows my mom is surprised. I thought, seriously, Mom? Take care of yourself first. But even while facing down death, she was doing what she could to help someone else in need. Ray Bradbury writes, "Is death important? No. Everything that happens before death is what counts. And we've done fine tonight. Even death can't spoil it." Mom, on behalf of your family and everyone here whose lives you touched, thank you for living a life that even death cannot spoil. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sunny, and I'm the daughter-in-law of Dr. Shea.
Today, I would like to share some wonderful memories with you about my mother-in-law. One of the memories was the time when she and my father-in-law first visited my hometown in October 2008. That's when Roger and I were officially engaged in China. My in-laws flew from Los Angeles to Shanghai, then they took a train from Shanghai to Xuzhou to meet Roger, me, and my parents. After we all met up in Xuzhou, my parents hired a minivan driver to take us all back to my home, a remote village in a neighboring province. However, the trip to my village was not so smooth. We got stuck in a dirt road that had turned into mud after rain. Everyone had to get out of the van and push it out of the mud. I remember clearly that my mother-in-law was wearing a purple dress with high heels. I felt bad for her that she had to go through with this. Weeks ago, Rod had suggested that we all meet up in Shanghai instead, a developed city where his parents would be initially landing. It would have been much easier for her. Instead, she chose to follow our custom, and she wanted to show my parents respect by visiting our home in person, even though the road was rough, even though the place was isolated. After we arrived at the village, she was greeted with a warm welcome. Women her age in my village never wore dresses, let alone such a beautiful dress as the one she had on. So they were amazed and excited to see her. However, the roads in the village were just as muddy as the one leading to it. After a while, she pulled me over and asked me if she could change her high heels to tennis shoes. I said, of course. So with her tennis shoes, we were able to visit the fields, the woods, the river where I grew up as a child. In my culture, for formal occasions like engagements, only men allowed to sit at the formal dining table with formal dishes. Even though it was my own engagement, Roger's mom and me had to sit in another area separated from the men. She was not offended by this, and in fact, she seemed to enjoy eating with women and children, all of us sitting on tiny stools at a super low table. She did not complain at all. She did it because she loved her son, she respected my family, our custom, and she did it because she was a polite, thoughtful, and kind person. Her kindness did not just stop there. After Roger and I got married, she continued to provide generous support to make sure I felt welcomed by this family. It surely made a difference, especially to someone like me who just landed in a foreign country. She also supported my hobbies with generous compliments. Even though she knew I am just amateur when it comes to plants and flower arrangements, even though she was aware that I can't read music and have more of an interest in singing than a talent for it, even though she saw there was so much room for improving my tennis skills, yet she chose to encourage me and complimented me on any tiny progress I made in any of these areas. I will continue to pursue these hobbies to honor her, to become a better version of myself. Fast forward to the last 2 years to 3 years, she was sick shortly after she retired from full-time medicine. Time seemed too short, so she cherished the precious moments with her family, especially her grandchildren. Together, they enjoyed playing different kinds of education board games, making fresh passion fruit juice, lemonades, cotton candy, and shaved ice. We also established a family tradition called movie night on weekends. We watched lots of cartoons that she and the kids picked up together. We were able to finish all of the Ice Age movies. Sometimes she would sit through the Minecraft story movies, even though the stories did not make any sense to her at all. Yet, she did it anyway, so she could be with the kids a little bit longer. She left us too soon, but watching her struggle with excruciating pain, it must have felt so too long for herself. So I want to thank her for fighting so hard to stay a bit longer with the children. She meant so much to them, and every effort made was worth it. They're blessed to have had such a sweet, gracious, and funny grandma. Her grandchildren will carry on her legacy, continue to be kind, grateful, and a blessing to others. And as for me, I am truly blessed and deeply honored to be her daughter-in-law. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Todd, Grace's younger only brother. I'm the patient. But that's before she took up OBGYN. At that time, she was in general practice. Green is a brilliant and wonderful person, as we can tell from the overwhelming posts on the memory wall. Thanks to all of you who have already contributed, and we welcome more fond memories and heartwarming thoughts. A few days ago, as we sort through Green's stuff, we came across a briefcase given to Green by our mom. When I opened it, I found a little black leather-bound diary. To my surprise, when I opened that little diary, there's one page that Green wrote, "My brother is getting more and more annoying." That diary was dated 1959. That's when she was 11 and I was 7, the annoying age. And she says, "He is rude, he's touching this and touching that. Sometimes we actually had physical fights." I bet you never knew about her violent side. I was crying and laughing at the same time. I thought this must be a mistaken identity. Maybe she has another brother I didn't know. Now I cannot confront her for this false accusation. Green has her goofy, humorous, and innocent side that some of you may never find out. As a naughty, annoying brother, I am going to share the stories with you. That will give you the complete picture. Green could have been a judge or lawyer had her not chosen the medical career. When we were in elementary school, one day we were in our father's car, riding on the street. Being an annoying boy, I looked outside and I saw a boy on the street. So I made a face at the boy. I don't know why I did it, because I'm annoying. Green says, she gave me a big lecture about this. She says, we have to be kind to others, especially when we're a little bit off in others. We need to be kind. To this day, I took the lecture in my heart. When Roger, Green's only son, was young, every time Roger was watching TV and see commercials of toys, Roger will always ask, "Mom, can we buy this?" Green's typical answer is, "No, it's too expensive. We cannot afford it." Okay, now on Roger's birthday, Green took Roger to a toy store. He says, "Okay, find the toy you like." And Green waited for Roger in the checkout line. All of a sudden, Roger poked his head out from one of the aisles and said, "Mom, this toy boat is only 69 cents. Can we afford it?" Green has no sense of personal property or boundary, just like our southern border. That's what it is like that. When I was in high school, I always keep my room clean and organized. Every time when Green comes home, I'll try to lock my room because I cannot let her use my room. You know why? Because after she uses my room, my pencil will be gone, my ruler will be gone, my eraser will be gone, even my slippers will be gone. That's Green. Green loves to read, as you heard what Lady said. Okay? She'll even read the greasy newspaper that we use to wrap our food. As long as there's any printed words, she had to read them. Okay? One day I was riding in the car with my mom, and we saw Green on the street, walking and reading a book. My mom said, "Oh, that's dangerous. She might run into the telephone pole." Being an annoying brother, I said, "Let's wait. Let's see." And for sure, she did. One day I was home, and I picked up the phone. It was Green. I can tell her voice. She says, "Hello, may I speak to Uncle Yuan?" Okay, that's our Gandhi. Okay. So I can hear her voice, and I knew she called the wrong number. She called our own home for looking for Gandhi. So I said, "Daisy, okay, Green, idiot, it's me." Okay. She goes, "Oh, hi, Todd. Why are you in Uncle Yuan's home?" Rosa and I, we moved to our new Northridge home in 1998, expecting our third daughter, Sydney's birth. That's another miracle of Green's. Anyway, okay, 3 years later, okay, she will try to visit us once in a while. After 3 years, she's still getting lost, getting to our house. And frustrated, we ask her, "Why did you do that?" She says, "Why do you always move your house?" You know, in Taiwan, we grew up in Taiwan, and we have a 大专联考, which is National Joint Entrance Examination. And that's a big deal. Okay, one time, Mom and I, we accompanied Green to take her test. And we were sitting on the campus. And one of Green's teacher came by. She said, "Oh, this is Green's brother. You look just like." Look how handsome she is. Then the teacher continued to say, my mom was saying like, "Oh, in a few years, it will be Todd's turn to take a test." I'm not famous for my high grades. And the teacher says, "Oh, don't worry. Just let Green take his test for him." Green got along with her mother-in-law very well, Apo, KK's mother. And throughout all the years that Green spent with Apo, I only heard 2 complaints from Apo. One is, don't ever go grocery shopping with Green, because she'll always forget her purse and leave me on the checkout line as a ransom as she rushed home to get her purse. The second complaint was, be careful when you sit at the dinner table next to Green, because if you get up, she gets up. Then when she comes back to sit down, she will eat your food, sit in your seat, use your chopsticks. Every time there's a family reunion, a group photo is a must. And we are always lining up everybody, gathering everybody. If you know our family well, Green has a very regular line. She's always saying, "Where's KK?" Being shy as KK, he's always hiding from taking the group picture. But anyway, one day Green says, "I've never taken a picture for all of you. Let me do it this time." So reluctantly, I gave her my phone. And she said, okay, line up. Okay, she waited for KK to get in the lineup. Finally, she said, "Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, click." Okay. That was one picture with everybody's astonished face and falling bodies. Okay. When Green worked at a lab in Kentucky, there was a very polite gentleman who's always accompanying Green to the parking lot late in the night because they always work so late. And this gentleman would want to make sure Green is safe. Green is always talking about work. Okay? One day, without paying any attention to her surroundings. So one night, she came to the car and she took out her key, tried to open the driver door, couldn't open. She walked around to the passenger door, tried to open it, still didn't open. So Green says, "This door is annoying. Why is that not working?" The gentleman says, "Excuse me, this is my car." One day, Green drove Lily to her school, and this poor little Lily sitting in the back seat. Mom was driving. She briefly stopped in front of Lily's school and took off. The poor little Lily had to shout, "Mom, I'm still in the car." Lily asked Green about the content of today. So we put some kind of control over the content. Green said, "No dirty jokes." That kind of excluded me, KK, and Fong, my other brother-in-law, to talk. So I'm keeping it clean. Actually, you all got fooled by Green, okay? Because 50% of my jokes came from Green. The other half from KK and Fong. To respect her wish, I will share one more clean story with you to demonstrate her wit and sense of humor. Okay. One day, Green was riding in the medical center elevator. One patient jumped in, and she saw Green. She was so happy to talk to Green. Throughout the whole conversation, Green was trying very hard to figure out her name. Okay. After a long, awkward, one-way conversation, finally Green politely says, "I'm very sorry. No, I cannot recognize you if you have your clothes on." Green, I can no longer annoy you. And you were happy that your suffering is over. We will miss you here.
I was lucky enough to work with Green for the last 20 years. I was lucky enough to be introduced to Dr. Green-Shea when I was finishing my residency. At that point, I'd pretty much decided where I was headed, but my brother, who worked as an anesthesiologist in surgeries with her, insisted that she was somebody I should just meet and speak with, if only for a few moments, if only to get a little bit of perspective as a young physician. At that time, she had already been practicing as a solo OB-GYN here in Northridge for almost 20 years. And she was truly a beloved physician by her patients, by physicians, nurses, and just about everybody she encountered. I still remember, as we met over sandwiches from the shop across the street, her looking at me and saying, "Well, you know, I'm kind of clueless when it comes to running a practice, but there's so many people to take care of, and so if you'd like to come and help, I would be excited to share my space." It was as simple as that. No contracts, just a handshake, a generous act of faith, a wanting to be right there in the moment, and an optimistic can-do spirit. And that's how I think of Green as a physician. I don't need to tell any of you that Dr. Green-Shea was and remains an inspiration. Of course she worked hard. And in the days before she stopped delivering babies, we would often wake each other up on all hours of the night, but it never mattered what time. What I remembered was her exuberance, the sheer joy in her voice. Every single time we would welcome a new life. And there were thousands, many of you in this room, in fact. She was a passionate clinician, always leading. excited to discuss the latest journal articles, and she was perhaps my favorite person to go to conferences with. Not only because she was always considering how to incorporate new information we learned to take care of people and wanting to discuss it, but because she would always be so delighted with the snacks, and particularly if there were desserts provided. And she would just get so many of them. And you just couldn't help but be delighted with her at whatever was in front of us in any given moment. She was an excellent, amazing surgeon. She became proficient in minimally invasive surgery at a time when many of her contemporaries were still favoring open techniques. And she was one of the pioneer surgeons invited to launch a gynecological robotic surgery program at Northridge Hospital. She was truly a doctor's doctor, a physician in whom those who witnessed how she practiced would trust themselves and their loved ones to her care. But her humility was profound as well as her compassion. I remember praying together many times over difficult cases. She was gracious. She was forgiving. I recall once as we were discussing a frustrating situation, she would remember out loud, "Sometimes it's so hard to remember that when people come to you, they are hurting and not at their best." But she had the gift of seeing people right where they are and helping them to heal and to grow. She had a fantastic sense of humor. And she had a surprising wit. And sometimes she was just plain silly. You know, rarely there was a day that went by when we weren't laughing out loud together. She was always giving. Months after she retired, with the onset of the pandemic, as her annual medical mission was deferred, she turned her efforts back home, and she helped to collect PPE locally for our hospital. And I remember how grateful she was when she was able to receive her first COVID vaccine. Not so much for herself, but so that she could turn around and go to the front lines and give out vaccines at Seaside. That's the person she was. No job was too small for her. And even as she was in pain for her cancer, she continued to minister. Get phone calls, "Hey, can you talk to me over here?" And if you haven't seen her YouTube Relay for Life video on her perspective of what it means to her as a physician, going through what she went through, please view it. It's truly, truly touching. But with all that she is as a physician, you know, Reen and KK were always welcoming, not only in the office, but in their home. As dedicated of a physician as Dr. Shea was, her heart was truly its happiest when she was with her family, her church, and her community. And she always remembered and was always grateful and always was cognizant of the fact that she could not do the things that she was able to do as a physician without the people who loved and supported her. As KK retired, she particularly enjoyed the times where she would actually have enough of a break to run home and have lunch with him. He's a good cook, by the way. And as much as she would laughingly share stories like, driving Roger and Lily to school and kind of forgetting them in the back seats and ending up in the office instead, and all those stories that Todd shared. She loved them both so deeply. And some of her quietest moments were times when she would worry quite. But she was so proud and so grateful as she thought about the people that she had, the people you've become. She would share stories of how she would get lost on the way to a higher practice that she'd been to every week for I don't know how long, and how joyful she was when Lily bought her something to attach to her keys so she could finally find her keys. She was just so fantastic about saying thank you all the time. But what really, truly mattered at the end of the day was the joy she could bring and be a part of. And one of the happiest days I saw Reen, and the had the privilege of sharing was how absolutely overflowing with the sheer wonder of it when the birthday of her first grandchild. And moving forward, even as she was sick, she would light up just sharing pictures and antics of each grandchild. She would call me up and she'd say, "Hey, guess what? I'm sneaking candy with them. Don't tell Lily." And she would say, "You know, there are all these monster movies. I'm not sure if I get them, but I love them." Green, she just moves forward, and she was my mentor. She was my role model. She was my friend, and she'll always be a part of who I personally am as a person and a physician, as she is for so many of those of you whose lives she's touched. And we thank you, even as our hearts ache, missing you here. May you continue to share your everlasting joy among the cotton candy clouds and with the angels in heaven.
I'm Jane Xu. Green and I were in the same class in junior high school, and medical school, a total of 13 years. I spent countless nights with her, attempting to pull all-nighters before exams. One thing for sure was that we drank a lot of coffee. Most of the time, we ended up sleeping in the sitting position with our heads resting on our notebooks. It was probably because we were study partners in high school, and we scored almost identical points in the national entrance exam. Entered medical school with student numbers right next to each other. Because of that, for 7 years in medical school, we were always in the same laboratory groups and hospital rotations. Green is from a loving family. When we would visit her house, her parents always treated us warmly and took time to speak with us. Green, her younger sister Cloud, and her younger brother Todd are all very intelligent and musically talented. Most of the time, the house was full of laughter, with the siblings playfully teasing one another. Green was always the star in school. She excelled in everything. She was a natural leader, a good writer, a poet, fantastic pianist, and she's good in every sport. Green and I both love to sing. Singing duets spontaneously was our way of having fun. I have fond memories of singing with her and a few other friends riding on a crowded train during the school field trip. It was so much fun for us, but maybe not too much fun for the other passengers. Green had a great sense of humor. She loved to tell jokes, and she would be the one that laughed the loudest. She was humble and never pretentious. She was always complimenting others. She could see merits in every person, even those that others did not see. She was a wonderful person to be with, because she was always optimistic and encouraging. In our high school, there were more than 1,000 girls in our class. Because she was so outstanding, everyone who graduated in 1966 knew her and adored her. There were 100 students in our medical school class. somehow, Green seemed to have a special gift to continue communicating with the majority of the class from all over the world. Her house became the gathering place for our classmates. Whenever there were visitors from abroad or other states, our class has a line chat group. Green was a main contributor to the group. Even after her illness, she wrote comments, congratulated classmates and their children for their great accomplishments. Often, she wrote poems about special events and books that she read. Most importantly, she reported updates of her illness and treatments. She was very honest, but always hopeful. Coincidentally, our husbands, although not related, have the same last name. After we got married, KK and Frank became friends. They always have fun together, joining our girls' high school reunions as spouses. In April 2021, Green called me and told me that preliminary pathology was cancer. I was devastated. On the other end of the telephone line, she was calm and collected. She did not want me to worry. From then on, I knew if I showed anxiety over her illness, it would be a burden to her. She underwent a long surgery at UCLA. That evening in the recovery room, still halfway awake from anesthesia. She used her cell phone to post on the group chat of our class to tell us that the surgery went well and she was in recovery. She knew that every one of us was anxiously waiting to know if everything went well. She did not want us to worry. There were obvious typos due to the anesthesia, but we all understood, and we all feel relieved. During her illness, she had a lot of days with pain, nausea, dizziness, and lack of energy. The days she was comfortable were limited. Despite that, she invited us to visit her on many occasions. KK always cooked lots of gourmet dishes for us. I tried to offer bringing food, but he always insisted on cooking for us. Finally, I realized that this was his way of showing love to her. During those visits, if she felt strong enough, she would play piano or oud for us to sing alone. Otherwise, we would sit in a circle around her in the living room and talk about the old days. I will always treasure precious moments that we had with her. Dear Green, I've known you for 63 years. You touched so many hearts. You fought a good fight. I am very humbled that God granted me the privilege to have you in my life. No more pain, no first offering. I can see you smiling in heaven. Goodbye, Green. You are always in my heart.
Thank you for sharing. 接下来 Roger, you have a slideshow. Okay. I have a backup copy. Okay, very good. So we're going to watch this slideshow. Come for you，愿这样的聚会能够继续的安慰。下面这首诗歌是小青在病中特别喜欢的一首诗歌。Following him, Sister Green loves very much. This hymn is Precious Lord, Take My Hand. 亲爱主，牵我手。Peter and Theo.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. My way
say appreciation. Let me say a few words first. 今天你在手上拿到这一份纪念刊物，因为今天时间的缘故，我们教会许多弟兄姊妹没有办法在这边分享他们的怀念，所以我们把它收集起来印在一起，所以你们会有一本纪念刊物。那么因为都是中文，都是做中文哈，不过现在很方便啊，只要你有这个 Google Translate 的手机的话 ，App 的话，一打开就可以中文就变英文了哈，所以也可以帮助你能够看到弟兄姊妹对他的怀念。今天在我们的直播里面，我们有200多位viewer 在我们的直播里面。Today, this service, we have over 222 people, leads, viewers in our live streaming. So praise the Lord. And so many people are joining us. Remember our sister Green. Okay, Roger and Sandra.
We'd like to express our heartfelt thanks to all of you for being part of our mother's life. We especially want to thank those that helped her in the final chapter of her life. She was touched by the outpouring of love and support from friends and family that brought food, stopped to say hello and play music with her, and all the people who prayed for her and with her. She was grateful to her classmates that gave her advice and the doctors that went above and beyond to ease her pain and suffering. Thank you for coming to our mom's celebration of life. As I understand it, the English congregation had scheduled their men's breakfast for this morning, but they graciously postponed that to next month for my mom's funeral. And I hope that you guys aren't too hungry by then. So for them, but for everybody else here, as you leave, please take a piece of pineapple cake, which was one of my mom's favorite snacks. Thank you again for making her life rich with love and laughter.
好，我也再次代表我们全家谢谢大家来跟我们一起庆祝妈妈这不同寻常的一生。感谢各位亲朋好友在她人生各个阶段的陪伴，特别是在她生病期间对她的无限的关爱，我们真的有数不尽的感恩。谢谢大家诚恳迫切的祷告，多次送来的美味的佳肴，还有社区的关怀，还有她的同仁以及同学们，不管是在附近还是漂洋过海的，都及时给她提供了医疗的咨询，还有鼓舞，有的甚至来到家里为她治疗，试图帮她缓解疼痛。最后还要谢谢在线的一些家人朋友们，在海外的、台湾的、中国大陆的，还有世界各地的家人和朋友们，也谢谢你们在线上的关怀和祝福。那妈妈对这个世界是充满了爱和感恩。在此呢，我们今天也特别准备了她最爱吃的甜点凤梨酥，以表感谢，谢谢。
Okay, to conclude the service, let us stand, pray, and receive God's blessing. Dear Heavenly Father, we know from your precious word that our beloved Sister Green has been received into your holy presence and joined with the saints in Christ. What a glorious blessing that you have prepared for all the redeemed. We pray that you will comfort the family with your unfailing love and strengthen them with your wonderful promise. We also pray that you will continue to guide all our steps in this life, so that at the appointed time, we might join Sister Green in the communion of saints, forgiven, transformed, and fit for new life with the living Lord. 亲爱的天父，按着你宝贵信实的话语，我们知道小青姐妹此刻已经与主同在，享受天父为圣徒